Now listen, before everyone says, but your fan works fine, you're right, it does. I honestly love this little thing. And for the most part, we've got the setup spot on. It's comfortable, practical, and it's given us freedom to travel without spending an absolute fortune. But the truth is, when you live in something every single day, the smallest of details turn into these daily battles. It makes it not about whether the van kind of like functions, it's about whether or not you can stand hearing plastic squeak every time you want to keep dragging out 4 milk crates of random stuff every time you want to drive to the shops. That's why I'm calling these things quiet changes. They're not deal breakers, and they're not even things that you would notice on a weekend trip. But when you've been in a van long enough, they become these little moments that you start to daydream about fixing. So let's go through them one by one, starting with my water setup. Every time I need water, it's like this mini workout routine. Dragging these tap packs, trying to not to smash out my knuckles and hoping one doesn't spring a leak, honestly, mid-pour. They hang from kind of like the outside of the roof racks here. When we're parked, it looks fine until you actually try to refill them somewhere without absolutely soaking yourself. It's one of those things where you tell yourself, it's fine, it works, but every single time you use it or try to fill it up or do anything with it, it's just slightly annoying. And on the road, honestly, forget about it. You hit a sharp turn, because they sit actually under Elise's feet. You're praying that they just don't burst or the cap doesn't pop off. And I've had moments, honest to God, where I really thought we were about to baptize the whole van interior. Nothing has actually catastrophically happened yet, but it's the kind of risk that hangs in the back of your mind, especially when there's, you know, like 90 liters of water is your lifeline to everything. This system works, it's very cheap, it's flexible, and it has gotten us this far, nearly 2 years in. It's kind of satisfying in this really kind of nice DIY way. But if I could quietly change one thing, I would honestly have like a 100-liter tank tucked either under the bed or under the van. No leaks, no daily wrestling, just turn on a portable pump and that's it, you have water. That would save my sanity more than a flashy van gadget. Of course, the next quiet change is one you can't see until you feel it: insulation. The kind that makes you question every choice you made the first summer you spent sweating in 40-degree heat. So insulation is one of those things that you don't really think about until you're in a van in the worst possible moment. Summer. At least probably winter for some of you guys, a lot of you guys, but I'm Australian, so it's summer. Being in here in a Queensland summer, honestly, it's like sitting in a toaster oven. Winter, it's not too bad, but for those of you, I imagine it's like crawling inside of a metal fridge. And yes, technically behind these walls, there is insulation, but it's not the good stuff. It's the kind of insulation that's just enough to stop condensation dripping down, not enough to make me feel comfortable when the weather really wants to punish us. The kicker is the paneling. We bought this van with the paneling. Now the only way to improve the insulation is to rip out all of this paneling and start again. This kind of paneling is so expensive. I looked into it once and I immediately said, no way, I'll sweat. And we bought the EcoFlow. And money aside, it's the kind of job that would take weeks. And so we just sit here sweating, wishing we had probably done it initially in that $9,000 I wasted in the previous video. Still, we have managed. On the hottest days, as I said, we drive the EcoFlow Wave 2, it does its thing. In winter, we kind of get some more blankets, a hot cup of chocolate, do the rest. And it's not impossible, it's just one of those nagging, like, what if choices. And if we ever did rebuild from scratch, as in bring this whole thing back down to metal, insulation would be on the top of the list. Not for luxury, but for comfort. Because trust me, nothing tests your patience like trying to sleep when you are sticky and it is 45 degrees at 10 o'clock at night. And while we're talking about patience, let's talk about clothes storage. Because nothing says home sweet home like Kmart tubs squeaking so loud you wonder if you have a bird trapped in your van. Okay, so let's talk clothes storage, or in my case, plastic tubs that squeak every single time I touch them. They honestly have survived a lot. They drive me up the absolute wall every turn, every bump. It's like the van is protesting with the chorus of and whenever we take a right corner, Elise has to put her hand on them so the whole stack doesn't absolutely fall over and block our entrance through the side door to the van. When it does fall over, our underwear crosses the floor like a confetti at a parade. It's magical. And look, I've pictured it too many times. A hard stop on the highway, tubs tipping, and suddenly we're playing like 52 pickup, but with t-shirts and underwear. It hasn't happened yet, as in it hasn't come out of the van. It has fallen a couple of times. It's close enough that every time that I drive and imagine the chaos, it's a nagging feeling that's there. It's the kind of problem that makes you clench the steering wheel a little bit tighter than you probably should. And to be fair, these things, they do the job. They were easy and cheap. They're from Kmart. And they've lasted longer than I honestly probably would have expected. But if I could change it quietly, I'd invest in a proper drawer system, or at least something that maybe didn't open and close like a drawer. They don't have to be fancy, just something that doesn't squeak like a rusty gate every time I try to reach for a pair of socks. It's about your mental sanity, not the style. Actually, speaking of sanity, the real kicker is even after downsizing, we still haul around way too much stuff. They all need to be moved from the front to the back every time we drive and park. So here it is, the front of the van when we are parked. And every time we want to drive somewhere, it's the same dance. Move everything from here to the back. Shuffle things around just to make space behind the wheel. This stuff doesn't look or sound like much, but when you're repeating the process like every couple of days, it feels endless. And the worst part, half the time, I don't even know what's in them anymore, because you end up with these random odds and ends of just in case items, things that probably should have been donated, burnt or thrown away months ago. And I've had moments where I've nearly cracked a coffee mug or bursted a water bladder just trying to load these things back in, or tripped on a cable that snuck on the outside. It's potentially borderline unsafe when you are tired and rushing to move. It's when you realize that the clutter doesn't take up space, it actively slows you down. And if you're not careful, you end up breaking things along the way. The good news, surprisingly, we've already cut back a lot compared to when we first started. Downsizing has been a constant theme of this van over the past 2 years. A slow burn of asking, do I really need this? Does this have 2 uses? And every time we let go of something, it honestly does feel much lighter. There's still room to do better, clearly. And if I could quietly change one thing, it would be to reduce again, and then reduce again. Because the less I carry, the less I have to juggle every time that I need to move this van. On the topic of juggling, let's not forget laundry. Our current system, a rope tied to a fence post or a tree, or whatever happens to be around us at the time. It works until the wind picks up and you're chasing your clothes across a campground. Laundry day in the van looks a little bit different. Most people have like this neat little setup, maybe a folding clothesline. Me, I've got a rope and a couple of wooden pegs and a fence post that belongs here. It's one of those moments that reminds you how improvised van life can truly feel. And honestly, it doesn't scream home. It's more like a backyard camping trip that just never ends. And when the wind really picks up, forget it. We've had undies and clothes blown halfway to the next camp. And at some points, the whole rope just coming down when one of the knots fail. I'm not good at knots. That was at least sneezing. It's funny in hindsight, but at the time, it's a mix of frustration, a bit of embarrassment, especially when your neighbour's got a proper caravan clothesline that just folds out like magic while you're repegging these things for the third time in front of them. And the ultimate truth is the rope is fine. It's cheap, simple, and it gets the job done. But if I could quietly change one thing, I'd buy one of those fancy fold-up caravan clotheslines in a heartbeat. They fold down nearly flat, slot neatly into most of the storage spaces we have, and take 2 seconds to set up. No more chasing socks across the campsite, no more sagging rope. It's the kind of upgrade that I feel like would be small, but would definitely make our van life infinitely smoother. So honestly, that's the list. The quiet little things that I'd change about our van setup. None of them ruin van life, but together, they kind of remind you that this lifestyle is always a work in progress, which brings me to the bigger picture. When you put all these little things together, the water, the insulation, the tubs, crates, the clothesline, it paints a pretty clear picture. And we've said it a few times over the past couple of videos, but van life isn't about building something perfect and never touching it again. It is about constant adjustment, constant learning, and realizing that comfort comes from the details that you don't think about until you live them day in, day out. I don't regret any of these choices, and at the time, all of them made sense. Tap packs were cheap, flexible. The insulation that we had in the van when we got it was good enough. Kmart tubs were an easy fix. Milk crates and containers that we already had lying around. Rope, everybody's got rope. These things were quick, budget-friendly solutions that got us rolling sooner rather than later. And honestly, if I had waited to afford all of the ideal upgrades, I might never have actually hit the road in the first place. But now, after living this way for long enough, I see the cracks. They're not failures, it's just kind of areas where like I would shift from this to this if I could. 100-litre tank under the bed, proper insulation behind the panels, a storage system that doesn't squeak, less clutter overall, one of those cool fold-out clotheslines. None of them are glamorous upgrades, but together they would make our daily life smoother, calmer, and less about managing problems and annoying things, and more about enjoying the lifestyle that we have. Van life isn't just one big decision, it's 100 little small ones. And most of those small ones, I believe, you really only figure out by trial and error and what works for you. You don't know what's going to drive you mad until it does. And you don't know what's worth the money for you until you've lived without it. And that's okay, that's the process. I think most of us are just making it up as we go. Swapping, changing, adjusting, and wishing we had done things differently. And there is no shame in that. And it's not about perfection, it's about persistence. At the end of the day, this van gives me everything that I wanted. Freedom, simplicity, and a home that moves with me. The van changes as I do. The version that works now might not be the version that works for me in a year's time. And that's perfectly fine. So if you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. What would you quietly change in your own setup, or what out of the things that I've mentioned would you immediately omit if you did have a van setup? It doesn't matter if you have a van, caravan, tiny house, because I think everyone has those little things that bug them but doesn't quite make a regret list. And if you are new here, make sure you hit subscribe. I share not only just the big wins of van life, but the messy and the practical details too, because that's the stuff that no one tells you before you move into your own van. And if you want the honest version of this lifestyle, the good, the bad, the bad, and the squeaky tubs, you'll find it here. Next week, well, we are going to be diving into some of the biggest questions that people ask me. How I actually power van life. Solar, batteries, and my whole setup. I'm going to walk you through exactly what works for us, what I'd recommend, how I make it comfortable without intending to overcomplicate things. So you stick around for that one. It's probably the biggest part of why our van feels like a home. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing your stories in the comments in the previous videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Ooh, look at them up there. Ooh, they're light and airy, free for you to watch things. Ooh, ooh, look at them, click them. Again, unless you're on mobile, and this is just the weirdest part of the whole video for you. But watch more of my videos. Okay, bye.